It is the Welcome to Cooperville podcast / live stream / episode number 74. 74 conversations with almost 74 different people. I mentioned this on the last podcast. We had at that point had just eclipsed 11,000 downloads. I think we're closing in on 12 right now. So thank you to everybody who keeps on supporting the show and listening and downloading. Remember those comments and those ratings and all the podcast platforms. Those are fantastic. For all of those who are checking us out on the live streams, we are on Facebook, we are on YouTube, and we are on Twitch. For those on Twitch, make sure you hit the follow button so you get updates every time that we get on here. Do have to say before we bring on my buddy Steve Stone, big thanks to my friends at Midwest Meals and MidwestMeals.com. We really, during all of the pandemic stuff and the chaos that has been 2020 and the chaos that has been 2021, it really, like, everybody thought it was going to end after the new year, and guess what? It's still here. But Midwest Meals has definitely been, that one reliable part. I don't have to do any meal prep. I go on Mondays. I pick up my meals for the week. 13 different meals to choose from. They're always updating, and you have all the information on that packaging. You know what you're putting in your body as far as calories go, your fat count, your proteins, your carbs, the macro stuff, the things that you need to know. Because believe it or not, being healthy during all this is a major benefit. So to know what's going in and know what you can put out is good stuff. And Dan Beck, fantastic young entrepreneur doing his thing at Midwest Meals. And you know this, 10% off your first order at MidwestMeals.com with the promo code Cooper. And they do ship nationwide. So no matter where you are in the continental United States, they will ship your food to you and you can enjoy Midwest Meals, #MidwestFitFam. And of course, my friends at Monster Energy and their new Hydro Super Sports, the Blue Streak and the Red Dog, all the good stuff to keep you energized and going as you still got to keep busy. If you're still taking advantage of 10 months and 15 days to flatten the curve and you're still on the couch, it's time to get up and get some stuff done. And those two energy drinks will do that for you. Super hydration, branched chain amino acids, 200 grams of caffeine, and vitamin B3, vitamin B6, the good stuff for you. That's that new Super Sport from Monster Hydro, #Monster Podcast. The first time I ever heard this man's voice was the first time I ever stepped foot inside. I shouldn't say the first time. I think when I was like a wee lad, my aunt owned a restaurant, and I had to go into some like back room of a radio station, and all the grandkids sang the jingle for her restaurant, Annie's Restaurant on Water Street in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. Like when I was knee high to a grasshopper, probably my kid's age, probably like 11, 12, somewhere in there. So that was the first time. But the first time I was actually in a radio studio and I heard a voice, the voice, over the airwaves, and I actually got to go into a production studio with my friend Josh Quinn back at WMAD, back when it was Mad Radio, in Madison, Wisconsin, and I heard Steve Stone's voice, and I got to see really the back end of what goes into taking what Steve does, and Steve does it better than anybody. I've dealt with voice guys for 20 years when I was in radio. Voice guys, voice gals, nobody does it like Steve Stone does, and to see how the magic happens, how it goes from a script to what Steve then reads off. They're two different things, and the magic usually comes in the stuff that's not scripted. But Steve Stone is here. He's my guest on episode 74. And also the voice of the Welcome to Cooperville podcast. My friend, how you doing?
Good, man. Good. Thanks for having me. I appreciate that. I can't believe that's when we connected, because I just, before the new year, I chatted with Josh, and he has retired from radio in the new year. And I was like, wow, I really am old now. The little kids are all retiring now.
It's time.
So, yeah.
But you got the good gig though. You don't have to worry about going into this, going into work in the studio. You got your setup right at your house, and you've been doing this for has it been 3 decades yet, or are you closing in? Do we have like a?
I've been in broadcasting for 30 years, but on my own freelance full time for almost 20. And it's interesting. Before we jumped on, we were talking about the isolation of the pandemic. I'm kind of used to being by myself, working, anonymously for all these years. So the pandemic hasn't really changed too much of my day. It's just made me realize, like, I have to kind of talk people off the ledge a little bit, people who aren't used to it. And you just realize how of a seismic shift it's been with, not doing what you normally do. I mean, I think my social life now revolves around maybe going to the grocery store, like at 10 o'clock at night, once or twice a week. That's my social life. That's it. Or either that or, taking my kids to Taekwondo. That's it. And I got nothing else going on. I got nothing else going on.
Do you have a crew now? Is there like the Tuesday 10 o'clock crew that goes to the same grocery store, and you're like, hey, do you have like the same people?
It's I just know that my wife always laughs because it's like I know the checkers at the grocery store more than friends anymore. It's sort of like as you see them, in person. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting. It's a very, and thank you for the compliments, by the way. That's very nice. I'm really fortunate to do what I do. I got into broadcasting when I was a teenager. I was 19, and I was on the air as a DJ for a while, and I wasn't very good at that. That wasn't my strong suit. I'd much rather be in the back production studio, doing commercials or, doing audio and stuff. So it was kind of different because most of the people I jumped into the business with didn't want to do production. To them, that was just in the way. They wanted to be on the air and be personalities. Where for me, I was more like, I'm fine being behind the scenes. I'm not, this, I don't have that. Or back then, I didn't feel like I had that kind of personality. So I'm glad that early on I kind of figured that out. So I've been very, very fortunate. It's a pretty crazy job, and to do it kind of anonymously because people don't really know what I do. Right. A lot of times when people ask what I do, I kind of just have fun and I say I'm an exotic dancer because I just, I don't like to go through the whole like ramble, but also the other fact too is that my kids have grown up with me being at home a lot, and what I do is not something that's so unique to them, which is great. So like at the end of the day, they don't care what I did. They want to talk about their stuff, which is great because I don't want to talk about my stuff. Right. I always feel like it's a great equalizer. It's like I go upstairs and the day is done. It's like, oh, that's nice. Garbage needs taken out. It's like, okay.
Right. Just cutting promos here for Fox Sports. I'll be fine. I'm just going to go and grab the garbage and maybe do a dish or two. That's
just fine. I like that.
Yeah. I think the coolest thing, and this is like total, like I want to say radio geek thing, and I've done this with a lot of voice talent that I've worked with in radio, and you being in the first one, and probably the one that's is more. Like I hear your voice everywhere, but it's one of those things because it was my first radio gig, 1999 in Madison, and as it progressed though, as I moved away from Madison, I kind of came back home, got back into radio. Like it's one of those things where if I hear a voice that I like that I've heard in a production studio, that I've seen, the MP3 or the WAV file of, like my head will jerk around like, oh yeah, hey, oh my God, like Steve, like the first time I heard you on, watching Brewer games and hear you cutting for, Fox Sports Wisconsin, or hear you on CNN, I'm like, but it's such an incognito thing. Like you are the most behind the scenes of, even the guys in the that are in the studio with whomever host on whatever show. Sometimes the camera will pan around and they'll get like a wide angle, of the crew in the back, and they get to wave, and it's like, oh, it's Dave's anniversary today, and they say hi to Dave, who's running camera 3. But the voice guy, he just lives in like this world, but every time I hear your voice or any of the voiceover people I've worked with in my radio career, it's always that weird geeky like, good for them. Like they're cutting that for, when we go on a road trip or something and hear you on a different radio station, I'm like, hey, it's Steve Stone. People are like, huh? Like, never mind. You're never going to understand.
It's thank you. I appreciate that. That's, I'm also, I geek out a lot of times too. Not so much anymore because last year I haven't really, taken road trips or whatever, done any traveling, but I love going to other cities and listening to the radio or watching the TV and picking out who the voices are, because a lot of them I know. Or if I'm lucky, it's a market that I'm in, so I get a chance to actually like watch or listen, in real time. It is a really strange, it's a disconnected experience, but it's also in some ways it's kind of like being Superman in some ways, where you turn it on when you need it, and then you put your glasses back on and you put your tie back on, and it's like everything's normal. Right. Nobody makes a big deal. I like that. I like the anonymity of it, because to me it's sort of I think just keeps me focused on the fact that I am very lucky to do what I do, and it's not what defines me as a person. It's what I do for a living, and I'm very, very lucky. But I think that one of the things that people don't understand sometimes is that it's a crapshoot world. Right. I mean, honestly, having a career is improbable most of the time when it comes to a creative vocation. Music, arts, theater, those things are difficult. So to be able to have a career with anything that's creative or performing or whatever is a win. And so I'm very, very grateful that I've had a sustained career, longtime clients, and people like you who remember, or we stay connected, and we cheer each other on with new, different ventures as life changes. Because there's been so many changes in broadcasting ever since I got into it. It was changing when I got into it, and obviously over the last few years it's gotten even more different with the economy, and then with the pandemic. So I'm very fortunate to be able to do it, for a living.
Yeah, radio is always, it was my first love, my first passion. But it was weird. Like, I was DJing weddings and stuff in high school, and so instead of like being at the dance, I was like DJing, for a company, DJing this stuff. Ended up when I moved to Madison, fresh out of high school, with no clue what I wanted to do with my life. I was like, oh, you can come down and, do some mobile DJ stuff. Pay wasn't bad. It was Madison, Wisconsin, which isn't the worst place on planet Earth to be, especially when college is in session. But, my office down there, because I was managing the mobile DJ company, which is tied into the radio station, was in the same building as WMAD, Mad Radio, and like Z104, and a bunch of other great stations down in Madison. And I just remember like meeting the staff, meeting Quinn, meeting Zach and Wendy, and Amy, and just Pat Frawley, who was my first program director down there, and just going like, man, these fucking people are so talented. I mean, they are. I mean, it really, when my first venture into radio was like, wow, this is like, these people are extreme talent. I mean, yeah, it's market 99, so you are going to have a really good set of on-air talent. But I'm like, God, these guys they're so good at what they do. They really are in tune with their attitude matches the format. Then I got to meet some of the Z104 guys, the top 40 guys. I'm like, wow, they're really super excited and really into their music. Like, why are they always yelling at people? I don't understand. Okay, I get it. Like, it's totally cool. Like, there's really Z104 is. I'm like, ooh, man. Like, but it was really cool to see, and that being my first venture in radio, and ended up working like the crap shift, like midnight to 6 Friday night and Saturday night. So great town to live in, except when you're working during the most opportune times in Madison. But what I noticed in radio. And some of this too in moving from part-time weekend DJ into like full-time guy, into promotions, into programming, into like basically managing a whole station, is that like when technology started to really ramp up, and you didn't have to have people in the studio, and you could voice track your show. I mean, the the real super passionate people in radio, they kind of got swept up and they ended up in some major markets, but then ended up voice tracking on, 20 stations throughout the country. And what I noticed when I got into management is the cream of the crop voice talent, guys like you. There was a handful that were at the top, and I would, put you at the top of that list. The drop off, though, was substantial, and it really came down to what your station's budget was. Because I remember every time I flipped a couple of stations from a classic rock to an active rock, and I was like, we got to get Stone. I don't care what and it was like, and they're like, well, here's our budget. I'm like, I'm not going to insult the man. I will not bring this to his table. I mean, I am his friend. I'm not going to be like, hey, so buddy, but it was, and I saw that in radio too. Like the really talented people, move to the top. It's like, cream rises to the top. They all rose to the top, and the rest, it really started to dwindle down because it seemed like something that nobody really wanted to do anymore, because it became less about having fun and going out and doing events and taking phone calls and being interactive. It got to be really kind of sad towards the end of my career, because you couldn't bring in new talent. We used to have the talent roster of part-time individuals. I mean, we had when I first got back to this area after Madison, I was doing full-time afternoons and imaging, and we had like 10 part-timers live on the weekends, and every single one of those 10 was trying to make that cut, trying to be like, okay, when so-and-so moves on, or when so-and-so, moves up to do the morning show, or the morning show guy, or the team leaves, and this guy, the afternoon guy, usually does mornings, that staff was just hungry, man. They wanted to go, and they wanted to be, the next, big talent in the area. And when I left 20 years after, 19 years after being back up here, there's one person in a building full of 6 radio stations on the weekend, and that person is just there to make sure that nothing breaks.
Well, it's I was having a conversation with somebody a while back about there has been a generational void in radio, where when I first got into radio, and just like you, there was a system of talent working up. Like, you always knew that you started off doing the graveyard shift, and then you worked your way up doing fill-in, and then maybe you did nights, maybe you got promoted to afternoons. I mean, there was a system, a process of matriculation before,
right,
before you, that you could see that you could work towards something. And I think with the way radio has changed, there's been so much cutback across the board that there's actually, like I said, there's been a generational void between when I got into the business and learned from people and started moving up, to a generation or two behind me that didn't have that. And now you have young people who may be working, like you're saying, responsible for 5 or 6 stations. And they didn't learn from somebody. They learned sort of kind of, trial by fire. Or when it comes to broadcasting, they learned from social media, from YouTubers, and which is fine. I mean, and these people are incredibly talented, but there is a difference between, learning from social media and hands-on that I learned. And I think that maybe that's just the way I responded to experience and learning. Was I felt that was so critical, hands-on, to I learned more by watching and being a sponge than I could have ever learned by going to a class or something, in my opinion, when I first got into the business. Because there was there was a path you could see if you had desire to move on, to get to a higher market or job or place. That, unfortunately, like I said, has skipped. And I don't know if that's something that can ever kind of come back,
Right.
because it is such a big void. And so what I like to do with anybody that I work with, and I'm really, like I said, I'm fortunate to have a lot of clients, and a lot of them are very young. And so, anytime that I can help beyond just what I do with, sending my voice tracks, is any sort of real world tips, any sort of, like, hey, look at this, give this a shot. It makes me feel better, like in some small way that I'm doing my part to try to bridge that, because there's so many just really great, energetic young people who don't have direction, because there is no, like I said, there's no clear path anymore. There's no, you know what I'm saying? As far as like in sports,
right. Yeah,
you go to high school, college, and then you get into the minors, and there's a path, and it's very obvious. Now there really isn't. And so, I don't know what the answer is to that, but I definitely want to help people. Whatever I can do, with advice or experience, because I'm learning from them as much as they hopefully will learn from me. My children are, my oldest son is 22, and then my middle son is 18, and my daughter is 17. And if you blink, you realize how quickly you don't understand how they communicate.
Right.
I mean, it's amazing. So I just think it's important to keep connected, both ways. We all have something to contribute, and it's a strange world. I even told my kids the other day regarding the pandemic, I have no reference for them. I can't tell them, well, this happened, I know what this is like because this happened when I was a kid. This didn't happen when I was a kid.
Right.
How do you explain to your kids school shootings? That didn't happen when I was a kid.
Right.
How do you explain just the craziness? It's difficult. It's a very difficult situation now. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I found that, as a parent myself, trying to parent as I was parented, but then I can't remember. There was a comic or somebody. No, I don't think it was a comic. It's probably some audiobook I was reading. But it was like when you were a kid, you kind of fought against how your parents were raising you. You tested the limits. You stayed out past curfew. After it was dark out, like when the light comes on, oh, I better get back home. But there was such more of a sense of freedom, I think, for me growing up, and I'm sure the same for you, where it was like, yeah, go and run amok somewhere. Where stay in the neighborhood, don't go past 4th Street, on your bike, in the woods, in the dark. Oh, lights on. No cell phones, no social media, no nothing. And I feel like now it's almost equal learning. Like you were talking about learning from your kids. It's the same thing. Like, my almost 11-year-old knew about Clubhouse before I did. He's like, Dad, I'm trying to get on Clubhouse.
It's the way it is. Yeah.
I'm trying to get on Clubhouse. Nobody will invite me. I'm like, Clubhouse, the same thing. Like, okay, it's Mickey Mouse, or somebody's got a fort in a tree. This is a new social media thing, which I want to talk to you about, as we progress through here. But I think they are so much more global than we were, and they can see, to bring this back around into a radio media thing. My kid grew up with me in radio. He's met more rock stars, more people of I guess fame and importance in the music industry, and talented radio people, syndicated radio show hosts. He's met them all. He gives two shits. He doesn't care. He's like, oh yeah. I met Lizzie Hale, from Hailstorm. I'm like, do you know how many men on planet Earth are like jealous of you at 9 years old? You get to hang out with Lizzie, and
Sure.
But it's so like, yeah, but I can also go and be a YouTube star, or I could, if I wanted to start, because he knows that I'm into podcast, like it's, Dad, I think I should start my own podcast. I'm like, it might not be a bad idea. There's so many more avenues for, I think, the really super talented younger generation of people who maybe get into radio and maybe get a little bit disenfranchised with it just because they're like, I want to talk and interview people and have conversation and do fun stuff. I don't want to do paperwork. I don't want to do, budgets. I just want to but now that there's all these avenues, and we'll talk a little bit about technology, because I know I'm sure over the course of your 20 years in doing what you do, your technology has changed. The way you get from point A to point B to your clients has changed. But for this generation, the generation that you mentioned, that's kind of been that we've hopped over in broadcast media, that's because they can, if they want to start their own radio station, they can do it. They may not be able to, play the hits, but that's really not what they want to do. They want the undiscovered artist, that makes it big. I mean, the number one song from 2019 was discovered on TikTok. It was Old Town Road.
Yep.
And half the music that I discovered after getting out of rock radio, I heard 6 months before it was ever on the radio, because my kid was like on TikTok, and I'm like, can we not play 15 seconds of the same song over and over and over again? And then 6 months later, here it is, the number one song on the radio. So I think the landscape is just, I mean, they open up their phone or they open up their tablet or their laptop and they go, why do I want to be on the radio in this market of 100,000 people when I can go online and eventually build an audience of, hundreds of thousands of people?
There are definitely a lot more platforms now. I mean, my daughter, our youngest, who's 17, she's really tuned into indie music, and so is my middle son, and my older son is actually he's a musician. He's in a band. He's toured before, and so I mean, everybody seems to be really kind of creatively focused in some way. But she's so good at curating playlists. And I told her a while back, I said, there's jobs. There's music curators working at companies that, what are they in charge? Well, they make the playlist for the building. It's amazing what these things, what the skills can get you now. The other thing too is, because there are more platforms, even though there's more choices for people to jump into things, it doesn't necessarily mean that they should. It's sort of like, once you become an adult, let's say once you become 18, you can vote, and you should vote, by the way. Once you become 21, you can drink, but you don't have to. There's there's that balance. I can do this if I'd like to, but it's a really difficult environment. I don't know how people emotionally can sort of disconnect from the ups and downs of social media. I mean, one day you're, everybody's favorite, the next day nobody likes you, and it can be nothing. It's just the ebb and flow. And so you kind of have to have, and again, this is just in general, in any sort of creative media, you have to have a thick skin. You have to understand that people's choices most of the time are very arbitrary. I like pizza. Well, we've only got in our area, 3 or 4 choices. So every Friday when we get pizza, it's kind of like, all right, what am I sick of? What am I sick of the least? And I think a lot of times we have to understand that people's choices sometimes come down to that. It's not a clear cut, winner loser. It's really, how am I feeling right now?
Right.
I like cars. I'd love to have a Tesla, but I'm not stupid enough to spend $100,000 on a car. Right. But it's sort of, that's kind of a constant, that constant battle. It's like, what do you want or what do you need? And a lot of times I think if we just sit back and look at things emotionally, a a lot of the things that we think we want maybe aren't what we need.
Right.
I don't know. Social media, it's like it's a love-hate. I enjoy, staying connected with friends. I love seeing pictures of people's kids and pets and stupid videos. And, I love that stuff. But then I also don't like, how everything always has to be a fight. Anything.
Yeah.
We're talking about music, food, sports, whatever. That's what bothers me. It's like I don't want to engage in that way with everybody every day. I just want to put a funny cat video up and just laugh and walk away, because I may be older now, but I mean, mentally I'm still 13. My maturity level is somewhere between SpongeBob and Borat. And that's, so, but I always thought social media for me was, I want to get a laugh out of something. I don't want things to be so damn serious all the time, man. But
yeah, I mean,
who knows?
It's having been, and we both have done this. We both, been around long enough to have moved from a world where social media didn't exist. Maybe MySpace.
MySpace.
You, me, and Tom were friends on MySpace. And it was kind of this weird thing, and there were stickers, and you had a theme song, and the code was all crap, and it was like, oh, I'm gonna put a new background on it. It was and it was that was just in its infancy. So we got to, kind of experience this rapid growth of these platforms, and what it's really done is it's made. I don't want to say being famous. But it's given everybody kind of this free pass to not only say whatever they want to whomever they want, the keyboard warrior thing, because everybody's fearless when they're behind their computer.
Sure.
But it's also, and I picked up on a lot of this during COVID, is a lot of people sought to find this new opportunity on social media, whether that was starting a podcast perhaps, or whether it was just, I'm going to do a bunch of live videos. And it's the frailty of the human mind, can be, you can really think what you're doing is great. You can really have a really good sense of self and be comfortable going on there. But the dangerous part of that is if you do have an off day, or you have content, I want to see not even necessarily questionable, because it doesn't matter these days. People will just pick a fight because they got nothing else going on.
Sure.
But a lot of people try to jump into Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and become like, this is going to be my thing. Now I have this time. I'm going to be, everybody and their mother became a personal trainer, apparently, in like the first 6 months. I'm like, the only reason I post myself running is so that if I don't do it, I'm like, God, should have ran yesterday. For me, it's more of a self-actualization thing. People are like, hey, good for you. I'm like, thanks, but this is more so I can call myself out on it. But everybody became a personal trainer. Everybody became a critic. And then you started to see the backlash of all that because, again, like you said, you can do it. Not everybody should do it.
Well, yeah, my wife and I talk about this all the time. She is an expert at what she does. She's an exercise physiologist. And she is an expert at what she does. And when she gives advice, it is legitimate. It's educated. It's experienced. It's, medically sound. It's everything that you hope an exercise physiologist is. She's got 30 years experience. And it frustrates her sometimes because she'll see on social media, like you're saying, somebody decided to stop eating carbs, and all of a sudden they had some tremendous weight loss, and now you can do the same thing.
Oh yeah.
It's like, but there's nothing behind it except for, this one thing. I'm very fortunate to be a working voiceover artist. I'm not a guru. I'm not a master. I'm not an expert. I'm not a whatever superlative people use. I'm just a guy. I'm trying to stay busy. I'm trying to work, and I just want to be helpful. So if that is in some way, some sort of, there's some sort of a title for that. I don't know. I'd rather just, in fact, I just was emailing a colleague earlier today. We're all hustling for work, but I'd rather lose because of kindness than gain because of greed. I'm not somebody who is. I'm not motivated by the dollars. I'm motivated really by the creative challenge of work. To me, that is what's most exciting. If somebody comes to me and says, "This is what I have, and this is a vision I have for this script," I love that challenge of let's see if we can give them what they want. That's where I feel I'm at my best. Is in doing the work, in the thick of it, not talking about doing the work, or not hustling to try to get the work. Which, because again, when you're self-employed, when you're independent, I'm very fortunate. I've got really great agents who send me wonderful opportunities and auditions, but it's still a very competitive thing. And even now with COVID, people are at home now. So you have people who are very much trying to figure out what they can do with their time. And so give it a shot. Go for it. Try it. I mean, I'm never somebody who poo-poos people's ideas, because I've got some, I've had some pretty crazy creative ideas, and I loved the fact that I was able to try them. Yeah. Some of them didn't work out. Some of them did. And so I just think there's so much uncertainty that you just got to try. You got to kind of jump into what gets you excited, what motivates you. I know how much you're really into running. That's been, I see a lot of the videos you put up, which is beautiful, especially when you run early morning and the sun's rising. That's something that you need to do that means something to you, and that's just for you. Obviously you share it on social media, but that's something else too. I think that what happens is, because we talked about this, just because you can, you shouldn't. When I hate this phrase, when I was young, we didn't post everything online. There was no online. If you had a journal or a diary, that's where you kind of wrote your thoughts and feelings or secrets. And that's missing that privacy. I love going to concerts. I'm not sitting there taking 50 photos at the shows. I want to enjoy the shows. And so you see people that go to these shows and that's all they're doing is with their phone. They're videoing every song, or they're taking photos or taking selfies. And to me, it's sort of like, well, how much did you pay for these tickets to do this? It's sort of like, right? Yeah. I mean, and I've been fortunate to see some really great shows, and I wanted to go to those for the experience and not for the photo. I want the experience to live here and here. It's for me. Right. It's something that nobody else can experience. That's just for me. That means something to me. There's memories I have when I was younger. There are no photos of it. There's no video. It's just something that I experienced that is in me, that is private and is something special. I think that's the balance. Do we want to share everything? I don't, because honestly, most of my life away from broadcasting is pretty plain Jane. It's pretty boring. Right. So, I mean, that's the way I look at it. So,
and let's be honest, a lot of the times those photos that people are taking with their phones at a concert, the quality sucks. I mean, like, like it's a blurry picture, and you're like, living my best life, #blast. And you're like,
Yeah.
what? I don't like, leave it to the professionals. Like, usually there's a camera guy at the concert. You can look up his stuff. And
I do have a
the
confession though. I went to go see the Foo Fighters
quality.
years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a last minute thing, and I was sitting side of the stage. They just opened up some seats to the arena, and I definitely was taking tons of photos as Dave came to that side of the stage because he's my favorite. So I definitely did that, but I didn't post them all. It was like I was just like, oh, that's so cool. I show my wife. I go, look, check out this shot. Dave's hair is flying up, and it's blurry as all hell. But I was like, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I was like 10 feet away from Dave, man.
Yeah, I mean, and he's one of the greatest. I mean, just as far as talent and showman. I mean, dude broke his leg and like was out the next day with the chair, with the big the king's chair.
Oh yeah,
it's like that dude. He's so boss. But no,
I just saw a client of mine just commented, and Dave, he's in
he's in my town.
Claire.
He's in Eau Claire, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't challenge you enough with my copy.
You don't have to. That's the whole thing. This is my favorite part about, and you said you're not, an expert. All the superlatives that you said that you're not. But,
well, that's I'm not like, but here, self-proclaimed,
right. Okay, well, I'll do the proclaiming for you then. Script gets sent to Steve Stone. And if I write it, Dave's a great writer. A lot of your clients that you work with, especially on the radio aspect, I'm sure there's some super creative people.
Oh, yeah.
But the best things that come back when you get that audio back from Steve Stone is the random shit that gets spewed out in the middle. I don't know, like what happens. Like I'll send him like 5 lines, and I get back like 12 minutes of audio. And I don't even use the 12 lines that I wrote. I'm like, I don't know where he went into some place my mind has never discovered before. It's
funny. A lot of the things that I do, I have terrible attention issues. I'm the classic ADD, and I don't have the hyperactivity. I just have the focus. The easily distracted. And so because in radio, a lot of copy is similar for, similar formats. A lot of the things I do is to kind of break up not sounding the same. Sometimes I feel like, oh, hang on, I'm starting to kind of get into auto mode, So it's sort of like the distraction. It's like, oh, look, a red ball, or it helps me kind of re-kick back into the performance of stuff. And I have clients who a lot of times, like if I have a really terrible outtake, like, I'm cursing, something happened, like, the computer froze or whatever, I'll edit that out because it's sort of like, they don't need that. They don't need that. But, like if the dog's barking or, you can hear, smoke alarm go off or something. I mean, those things, and then there's definitely a lot of bodily noises, a lot of snorts, a lot of burps. I mean, I always say, like, I don't charge for the scripts, but I charge for the outtakes.
That's where the magic is. It's not when they write; it's what you come up with. I got some another question I want to throw up here. What do you think about the rise of audiobooks as far as a voiceover artist? That's really become, I mean, with Audible and a bunch of other platforms, the audiobook, which for me, and I that's really my jam. I can put an audiobook, when I'm running or when I'm doing other stuff, and I can still kind of absorb that thing. I got to be honest, I don't feel like I quite get the full, like I'll listen to an audiobook, and if it's something that I'm like, damn, I missed a lot of really good things in there, I'll buy the book and read it. But there's something about when the author reads the book that I'm a huge fan of, but there are some authors that are like, that's why that guy writes. Yeah. That's why that guy should stick to writing. And you do have to have some talent in there to really get the story across.
There's a huge market for that. That's not something that I focus on. I do know people that focus on audiobooks, and they're incredible. There is a patience and a precision to being an audiobook narrator, because when you start recording an audiobook, your timbre, your tone, your pacing gets in a rhythm. So when you jump back in to record the next chapter or jump in and pick up where you left off, it has to match. So you have to have a lot of discipline, a lot of control. It's very, very specialized. And I definitely, there are a lot of really good audiobook narrators. There's also people that just have that great storytelling voice, where it may not be the big booming voice, but they're able to be comfortable in reading someone else's words. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely a big specialty, and if you can make inroads in that, that's a very very cool genre for sure.
I feel like I'd have to read the book like 5, 6, 10 times before I would really be able to get the feel. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not sure how when you get a script, especially like a promo script or something that's, not, here's a one sheet, here's one page with a bunch of individual lines in it, but like a promo, something that has to have a feel to it, and a certain tone to it with an entire book. And obviously, well, it's obviously going to depend on, okay, are we talking fiction, nonfiction? Do we need to sound like factual? Are we, more, telling of a story and have a flow to it? But man, I'd have to read that book a dozen times before I'd be like, okay, I think I finally understand how someone would narrate this. I don't think I could do it myself, but just really have to have a deep understanding of the book and really try to get into the author's head on how to.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's a very what's Liam Neeson say? A very particular set of skills. I think that's why I do well with promo and radio imaging, because it's short.
Yeah.
And I think that I can do pretty well when it's 30 seconds or less. Beyond, more than that, I'm really pushing my luck on so just my personality matches well with what I specialize in. But yeah, I do know of some audiobook narrators, and it's definitely a skill that is coveted. It's not something that everybody can do. I know somebody who he actually lives in my general area, and I believe a long time ago he told me that he narrated the Bible.
Wow.
And I thought, wow, that is amazing. Like, that probably took a long time, and that must be an incredible challenge. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely a genre that people specialize in, for sure.
That's crazy though. And you've had a chance to really do some amazing work, with not only the radio stations that you've worked with, but I mean, I know you did some work with CNN and, Larry King, who just passed recently. Do you get, I mean, from your seat, obviously you can work from your home. I know that you've done stuff on the road. I've seen some pictures that you posted of, when you get like a new piece of equipment, it's this big, like, I'm just going to record everything on this little device. I'm like, wow. Again, total geek stuff. But when you get a script for something, like a Larry King, who is that icon, or for even a radio station that's got an iconic status, or a program, do you get, is there nerves? I mean, do you have that, like, oh my gosh, like I got to cut the promo for Larry King Live or something on those lines?
When I first started doing work for CNN, which was in 2009, right after President Obama was inaugurated the first time, that Larry King was still on CNN, and I was doing, promos for his show. And to me, that was very serious. Like, I just kept on telling myself, don't screw up, don't screw up, you know, like just, you know, like just do your best. And yeah, I mean, there's always nerves. I think I get more nervous with an audition
Mm.
for a job than when I get the job. And I've been told, you know, numerous times that, you know, when you have an audition, that is the job. Like, just pretend that you've already got the job, and the confidence will show through when you do the audition. Yeah, I mean, I'm really fortunate. I get some pretty cool auditions in for you know, network TV stuff and you know, entertainment brands and all kinds of things. And if I sit there and think about it too much, I can really kind of psych myself out. So it's kind of like you have to kind of disconnect from the enormity of it, and that there's hundreds and thousands of people that are auditioning for a job, and just do the best you can.
Right.
And going back to what we talked about earlier, you know, it's such a subjective business. It doesn't matter. There is no right and wrong. It's all flavors. Somebody may not, you know, at that moment in time, they may not be into strawberry. They might want, you know, mint chocolate chip. It's just one of those. It's just a choice out of the blue. So, you know, more often than not, I don't win jobs. You know, the success rate for every audition you do is like minuscule.
Right.
But it's part of what we do. You have to constantly be auditioning for work, because there is a lot of choice out there, and people are changing their appetites for what they want to hear, you know, all the time.
Have you noticed, you know, over, you know, the 20 years you've been doing, you know, voiceover work and audio production, the changes, the ebbs and flows in content, you know what I mean? Like, you know, from 20 years ago, I remember some of the stuff we had on Mad Radio was like, you know, that total left brain out there, you know, pot smoking, but in like, you know, before it was like totally okay, you know, back when it was like not that, like, yeah, no. And it's kind of everybody, it's like grandma's doing it now. It's not that controversial anymore. But have you noticed, just in the scripts and stuff that you get, has it ebbed and flowed? Has it been kind of a how is the line move from the content that you get that you have to, you know, obviously cut, you know, the audio for? Has the writing changed? I mean, has it, because it kind of feels like we've been in this weird spot, Steve. I don't know if you noticed, we're just kind of in a weird place where it, you know, even with the stations I've worked for, like pushing the line as far as you can, but even that line, even over the course of my career, came back a little bit. Like it was way far out there. We could kind of do whatever we wanted to do a little bit, but it's come back down to kind of a much safer space. Have you seen that over the course of 20 years?
Well, absolutely. There's been a lot of change. Styles have changed so much over the last few years, especially with the proliferation of social media. The style of reads that a lot of brands go for or want is very unaffected, and they, you know, it's a cliche, you know, regular guy. I want to sound like a real person,
right?
And you know, the funny thing is, it's almost just as hard to sound like a real person than it is to you know, have a stylized voice, because that's really what sells now. If you watch TV, like watch you know, during the Super Bowl, you'll see a lot of commercials that are very toned down, very kind of simple, stripped, because a lot of the younger generation has grown up being bombarded with pop-up ads, you know, being sold, you know, every time they turn around. I mean, at school, they have vending machines with, you know, with brands, you know, Pepsi, Coke, you know, Frito-Lay. It's overstimulation. So it's kind of like there's been like this big pullback in how things are promoted. Copy has definitely changed because your audiences have changed. You know, with CHR Radio, when I was first doing freelance work, you know, the music that was popular at the time was Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, Britney Spears. the audience now, their parents, their kids, it's different, completely different. And the way they communicate, the way they talk, because they don't talk in regular sort of speak. It's very abbreviated. It's a lot of visuals, emojis,
right.
A lot of communication now is emojis. I mean, my mother is going to be 80 years old, and she's finally started, texting on a cell phone, which is just like a miracle. It's unbelievable. I love that. I love the fact that, I can text her or she texts back.
Right.
But that's a big shift. So yeah, things have definitely changed, but I also feel like people have an appreciation more for communicating and for language and for words because of social media. Again, there's this constant back and forth, this balance, this you were saying, ebb and flow. There's a lot of good, there's a lot of sketchy, but it does have big influence on society,
right.
on pop culture, on everything. I'm not really on TikTok, but when you go on TikTok, and that's, everybody has their grandmother dancing now. It's like, it's just,
right.
it's just, it's kind of like a bucking bronco. It's like you jump on and you hold on for as long as you can, because something's going to change at any moment. I see some questions that,
I was going to pop some of these up here.
Yeah.
Dave's back on talking about, if there's a job you've said no to, when the audition came back across your desk, if so, why?
Yeah. And the other question was, regarding a, piece of work that was too difficult. I would kind of maybe guess that that's the same kind of question as far as, yeah, I mean, I definitely, I don't do work, for any political campaigns on either side.
Have you been approached? Have you been approached?
Yeah. But I don't, just because, there is a neutrality with a lot of the work I do, because I do a lot of work for television news stations and news radio stations where, if they would hear my voice, announcing the station, and then there's a commercial for a candidate right after that, it causes a lot of confusion.
Right. So
although it is a very lucrative thing if you can get into it, because I mean, we all love watching those commercials where it's just so nasty, Bob wants you to think he cares about you, but he actually eats babies. It's like,
paid for by Elemental P Corporation.
Definitely not political stuff, but I have been approached in the past for strange jobs that you just wouldn't think they would need, a voice for. A lot of things, they call them internal videos or internal audio for corporations, for companies, where you're, you're sort of kind of like, you're greeting a new workforce, and you're sort of like saying, welcome to, blah, 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 and, we're glad you're here. And we've been at this for 80 years, and, you're a big, important part of this company. Those kind of things are sort of like out of the blue. And you think to yourself, oh yeah, that is something that people do. Like, you just don't think about it, I've been really fortunate to do a lot of behind the scenes things that have never seen the light of day, because they're non-broadcast. And they're fun because there's no time limit. You're not constrained by, 15, 30 seconds, 60 seconds. It's more open-ended. It's more of a showpiece. A lot of those things are called sizzle reels, sizzle videos, where you're trying to like promote or sell something, a new show or a new product. Those are fun. But now, something else too. I was just talking with somebody the other day. A big thing now is sports betting. Just like recreational marijuana being legalized in a lot of states, sports betting is the same way. So you're seeing a lot of these apps now, a lot of commercials for sports betting apps. And somebody was asking me if I would ever have an issue, doing work with gambling, and I have no issue with that. I don't have any issue with beer ads or alcohol ads or gambling, if it's a legal thing,
Right.
So, I mean, I'm definitely not going to do a commercial for cockfighting,
Yeah.
But beyond that,
Join us behind stage door 2 at approximately 11 p.m. Bring your cash. What?
By the way, I'm really jealous because you have an amazing beard, and obviously with your beard products, Captain Coop's beard oil and all that stuff. When I try to grow a beard, it gets to the point where I look like I just escaped from prison, and it doesn't grow beyond that. Like, this is pretty much all I can do, and it looks okay. Like your beard, it's like my daughter would like braid that.
I've had people ask if they could, and most of my nieces are like, what we should do? I'm like, no, I don't know if we should. Not unless I'm going as a pirate or something for Halloween. But I was told when I first I got out of radio, and then I didn't like grow it to start some sort of like, we couldn't have beards in radio, but it was just something I wanted to try, and I tried before. I think I tried during the Packers Super Bowl run of 2010. I was like, playoff beard, and then they won the Super Bowl, and then like I've seen pictures of like at Super Bowl, the Super Bowl party we had. I'm like nobody told me like it looked like shit. Nobody was like, it was like totally cool. Like, yeah, you keep doing that. But when that was 10 years ago this year. But I got out, and a buddy of mine, Phil Norvold, a bearded brethren of mine, owns Max Built Off-Road, and lumberjacky kind of fella. And he was like, here's the deal. You just got to, like you said, you kind of got to look like you got out of prison, or like you haven't had a home in a while, or a bathroom. He's like, and not just the beard. He's like, you got to let the hair kind of like it was. He's like 3 months, 90 days, and then we'll see where we're at, and then we can make like I'm not sure if he went to school for this. It felt like he did. He was very like, we're going to analyze you in about 90 days, and we're going to see if you can go into this exclusive barbershop where they'll make it look good. And I was like, no.
Wow.
And literally, it was, I'm not sure, when I went out in public, because we used to be able to do that. Those were fun days.
Yeah.
Like people's initial, and you shouldn't judge, but I can't imagine what people were saying, a month and a half into that, because it just looked like something went wrong. Like there was a science experiment, or I was like freebasing, and like, I don't know. It was bad. But eventually, after that 90 days, and then subsequently a year and a half later, it's.
Yeah. I mean,
it's all that Captain Coops, man.
Like I said, if I could, I would try it just once, but it's like like the past few winters I've tried it. It's gotten to be where, and the other thing too is, so much of my hair is gray now. So it's weird. Like some of it is, dark, and then some of it's like under here, it's the hair is all white, like white. So it's strange. It's really weird, man. Growing old. Hey, facial hair, right? Well, if they could figure out a way of, cloning like the hair that grows in your ears,
right,
and transplanting it on your head, it'd be really great.
There's got to be Elon Musk. Elon, if you're watching this right now, I mean,
well, he's got hair plugs.
If you see like the before, like, they show like, here's what Elon looked like. I'm like, wait a minute,
it's true, yeah.
Something. Well, I guess he's got the means to be like, build some rockets, a car company.
Are you expanding the oil thing, or is that still going?
Yeah, I mean, it's still a functional entity. It was one of those things. After getting out of radio and really going through a summer of trying to figure out what exactly I wanted to do, because I thought about getting back in. I dabbled a little bit in applying for some jobs, and it was always like there was one in the Cayman Islands, and I was like, okay, if I'm going to apply for a job, it's going to be on this little island in the middle of, the ocean in the Gulf.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I mean, and I actually and that was like the one job I got a call back from. Hey, Dave, since you're watching this, Dave DeVille, I applied for a board op position and didn't get it. At
Eau Claire?
Yeah. They're like, I'm like, whatever. But so when I figured out that, I didn't want to go back in and do the radio thing, because I love being on the air, man. That was my jam. I love talking, and the whole shut up and play the hits thing was not my jam. I was like, we're just going to talk. And, I suppose I should play a song here. But when I got out, started the podcast, that was going well, and kind of had one of those, let's figure out what we want to do. Did a whole diagram, did a whole chart on like, what are you into? Like at that point, this didn't look, like Prison Escapee. It was more, manicured, and it had its own, vibe going on. And this, by happenstance, I had a guest on the podcast. They were like, what do you want to do? And I was like, this is kind of my idea. And he's like, I got the lab. I got a guy who's into like putting things like this together. He's looking for an avenue. So it kind of just, it came together at the right spot. And we launched, in 2020 or 2019, actually, on Black Friday, and launched much better than I thought. I mean, I know how it takes brands a long time to grow.
Yeah.
I exceeded my expectations. I exceeded the bank's expectations. They're probably happy that worked out. But then we had started to get into some barbershops and some salons, and then they all got shut down.
Sure. No. Yeah. I mean, it sucks, but I just love that. First of all, I think the logo is the coolest. To me, that's just, I love that. I love design. That's just awesome. And so I think that's great. And, hey, listen, salons and barbershops will come back. And I just think it's awesome. So kudos to you, man, because like you're saying, it's like, you're potentially seduced back into, the belly of the beast.
Right.
But yeah, I think it's really neat doing something that's unique and that you have control over. Like you were saying, you have your own formulation and you have different, products. I think that's awesome. Like I said, and if I could grow a beard, I'd buy a lot of it. So.
Maybe maybe you're just missing out on it. You need the product, and then magically the beard will grow. I'm not sure if that's.
It's like Miracle Grow, right?
It is. It really is. I mean, to get up on a beard tangent, it really is all about moisturizing the hair follicle. It really is. I
think Dave says that he'll hire you, but he's just not going to pay you.
Well, trust me, I wasn't getting paid in my other job either, so it's kind of break even. I can push the buttons, man. I can push the buttons. No, but this platform, I think, has grown, and I can't thank Steve enough. I reached out to you before I launched this podcast, and we caught up a little bit, and I said, and this was an avenue, this podcasting thing. You're like, I don't even know. Like, I've never really ventured into this, but I think when you look at the landscape, and we talked a little bit about how social media and the platforms have grown. There's an app for everything.
Yep.
But if you wanted to, start your own radio station or have your own TV, show, I mean, you really could. The technology is out there. I'm just, I'm working on this new program, called Ecamm for when we launch the live show eventually. So there's so many avenues out there, but to be able to really do what you want to do and have an avenue where I can talk to Steve Stone today, I can talk to a doctor tomorrow, I can talk to a musician, I can talk to, an entrepreneur, and we can just have a conversation. And that's,
yep.
I mean, that has really become, I've learned so much about, just different human perspective in the last 2 years than I did in 20 years of radio, because this is actually getting a chance to sit down, I don't have a script. Here's what I have. Like I was going to forget your name. I have your name on a Post-it note. See it? Just in case. Like I was going to forget who you were.
But what's interesting is, when we're in radio and you're interviewing an artist, they're there pitching, a new album. So that's what you want to talk about. Or their handlers tell you this is what you cannot talk to them about,
Right.
So having this platform, is great because you're getting to the nitty-gritty of life,
Right.
It's not a little 5-minute thing. It's, you're really getting deep into things, and I enjoy that. We were going to talk about Clubhouse, which
Yeah.
is the whole concept of that. And let me know if that's if I'm changing subjects here,
No,
but
absolutely. I wanted to I want to touch on this with you because I know you're on it.
Clubhouse platform I like because it's just talking,
Mhm.
and there's no timeline where you're posting videos or photos. There's no typing, there's no messaging. It's just you jump on and you can, either converse with other people that on Clubhouse, or you
Mhm.
can jump into a room that is, talking about a topic that you're into, or you can start your own. You can schedule it. So I'm definitely looking at that more of a way to be able to communicate with people, because I do like to communicate with people, but there's so much with social media that is laborious.
Mhm.
Like I don't have the energy for like a lot of scrolling,
Mhm.
nonstop. But I definitely love to pop in and 15-20 minutes have a chat, or if it's something that's a topic and it's scheduled and it's something that we're looking forward to, it's really neat. So hopefully it gets better. Hopefully it expands. I think right now it's just in
Invite
on
only.
iOS devices, just
Yeah.
on iPhone. But I know that it's a public beta right now. I mean, it's really still being kind of ironed out, but I like the concept of it. I like the idea. So I hope they don't, if they start adding texting and stuff, I'm like, I'm out.
Well, that's
Anything, I don't have my brain can only like do 2 or 3 things at once. Like beyond that, it's just like static for
yeah.
me,
No, I just got literally yesterday was the first day I'd read something about it, and I was like, oh, I mean, I'll check it out. I mean, I didn't really go too far in depth. I watched a YouTube video because that's how you learn about stuff these days. Is you watch a YouTube video and then you know
Well,
everything.
I've got an invite link that I can send you
I
if you
got
want it.
one. I got one. It was strange. Last night I think I just followed you on Clubhouse before we jumped on here.
Oh yeah, okay.
But so I was reading up on it. I'm like, audio. That's like conceptually I couldn't quite wrap my head around it just by having somebody tell me what it was all about. And so I jumped on and you get we're still in beta, reserve your screen name. And then a buddy of mine, Steve Virginia, who's an artist manager out of Nashville, just randomly out of nowhere, he's like, hey, I just sent you an invite to Clubhouse. I'm like, that's weird. I just jumped on. And I got a chance to kind of go in and explore a little bit. And it is, I mean, I jumped in, they were doing a room on music, and I jumped in and listened and threw 2 cents into it. I'm like, what a great concept where you can just have your iPhone. Yeah, Andrew Pfeffer jumping on here. Yep, it's only on the iPhone, invite only to get in. But
Yeah.
What a
Well,
they didn't even know. They didn't even know.
Night, I jumped on Clubhouse last night and I was just kind of snooping around and seeing what was going on. And you familiar with the show Curb Your Enthusiasm?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Jeff Garlin, who plays the manager of Larry David on the show, he was on Clubhouse last night in an open chat, and I just jumped in and listened to him speak with all these other people. And I was like, "How cool is this?"
Yeah,
I was fascinated. It was amazing.
I saw Tulsi Gabbard was on there doing a long form conversation, and you're like, wait, like it's weird. It's hard to call it social media because I think you think of it and you're like, I pop on and even it's like a page I follow, they post something. Yeah. Now all of a sudden you're in this room,
you're live with them,
and they're
Elon Musk jumped on a couple days ago and almost like broke the internet.
Well,
so yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I love those kind of surprises, but I love conversating.
Talking trash, talking big, talking smart,
jibber
jabbering. No, but do you when you sit down and you get a script, and obviously you have your arsenal is large. I mean, everything from doing things like CNN with less attitude, really strong delivery, to a Fox Sports where it's a little more I won't say aggressive, but it's got that real sports feel to it.
Sure.
And there's CHR, and there's there's talk radio, and there's rock radio. Do you have like do you wear a different shirt? Like when you get a script, you're like, hey, today I'm going to do, let's see, I'm doing CNN. So I have to put on my, you put on a nice polo. Like, what do you do to get your mind into that? Because from where it comes from, what the delivery has to be, what they're expecting of you. Like, do you have any routines that you're like, hey, do you do all the rock stuff on one day? Do you do all the CHR stuff on one day? Like, how do you get yourself into like a zone for that?
I'm bouncing back all day long between different work. And I'm fortunate, but it can also be difficult to switch gears. So you have to be fast in our business, obviously. Turnaround, you have to get things turned around fast. But you also have to be committed to what that project is right there and then. So sometimes if I need to kind of recalibrate, I have some sample pieces of stuff I've done on my desktop, and I'll kind of watch and re-familiarize myself with the tone that I'm trying to do. And I'm fortunate, a lot of the TV work, they will send me either the music they're going to use, or they'll send me a rough of the video. And I really respond well with visuals. If you describe the person that you're wanting to talk to, that gets me in there right away. Tell me if it's a male or female, how old they are, what they're, just give me some demographics. That helps me a lot. But visuals for me is huge. If you can show me like, this is, what it's going to look like. Yeah, that's great. I love that.
Yeah. Did you fall into any of the, I mean, this is just kind of wrapping things up here, but we've been going through COVID, and obviously it's different state by state. It's different county by county. Everybody's experiencing it in different place, in different ways due to local government and stuff. But for you in the last 10 months, I mean, are you a binge watcher? I mean, since you're only going to the grocery store twice a week to meet up with your new friend, the checkout gal.
Yeah.
We got to see how Cindy's doing, because we haven't seen her since Tuesday. We don't know how, if the kids are doing well with the homeschooling.
I miss. There was a checker years ago, and she passed away. She was really nice. Her name was Midge.
Midge.
I thought, what a great name, Midge.
Yeah.
And she looked like a midge. It was like the coolest. But I love. I'm a night owl. I watch a lot of TV, a lot of movies, and I do binge watch. Currently, what I've really been getting into, and I have to pick it up. My wife and I, we started doing the Cobra Kai series, but we kind of left off in the middle of season 2. Her schedule and my schedule are a little different, so I'd love to be able to pick that back up again. I don't want to just watch it by myself. I mean, it was really fun watching it together. But a lot of stuff I do, like I love a show called Letterkenny on Hulu.
Yeah, I've never seen it, but I've.
It is so funny.
Yeah.
Because you're like a Midwest Wisconsin guy, you'll get it. You'll get the humor. It's really funny. I'm telling you, Letterkenny. Definitely watch Letterkenny. And there's a lot of. There was a Get Shorty. Get Shorty, I think, was on Stars. I've got so many streaming things, I lose track. But Get Shorty, I think there was 3 seasons of it, and it was really good. Really good.
Is that based? Wasn't there a movie Get Shorty? Is it kind of?
Yeah.
Okay.
The show is kind of loosely based on the same kind of premise. It involves, the mob, drug cartel getting involved in movie making. It's really good. Nice. Definitely. This is old, but I loved binging. Breaking Bad was great. I got into the first few seasons of Better Call Saul. But right now, when I watch, I want to laugh. There's been so much seriousness the last few years. I just want like an escape. I want to laugh and silly stuff. Like I love Tim and Eric. You ever watch Tim and Eric?
Never watched it. Seen it though.
Oh my God. It's so goofy and crazy. It's really funny. I still like watching, a few animated shows. Family Guy in some ways is really funny. And what's the other one? Darn it. I don't really watch a lot of animated stuff or current animated stuff.
Right.
Yeah. Oh man. But yeah, as far as streaming, there's just a lot of really good stuff. And Shameless on Showtime. Shameless is great. Oh man, great show.
I think it goes to show. I mean, we talked a lot during this about technology and social media and how that's changed, and we talked about how even script writing has changed. This whole evolution of technology and how we're all, I mean, strangely enough, closer together yet further apart, yet closer together. But I think you see, with things that we never thought, things that if someone would have told us back when we were younger, like, if there's a song you want to hear, you just yell it in the air and a robot's going to play it for you. You'd be like, that's some futuristic shit. Like,
but what's interesting, and we talked about this earlier. Did you notice that I was giving you choices, what I'm into, but it's all based upon mood.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So like when people decide to make a choice when it comes to what I do, who knows?
Mm-hmm.
It's what they're feeling. So there is no right or wrong. There are tons of shows, really good shows I've never even watched. That doesn't mean that they're bad. It's just, it hasn't clicked for me yet. By the way, another great show, Billions. Definitely good. Mm-hmm. Billions is good.
Dude, I have not been able to get away from watching everything there is about aliens, man. There's so many alien documentaries out there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like,
there's have you seen Skinwalker?
I haven't.
I think it's called Skinwalker Ranch or something.
I've seen things on Skinwalker Ranch. I think there was an episode of Ghost Adventures or something. They were talking about Skinwalker Ranch, so there's some tie-ins there. But like ever since, literally during the middle of all this, and I mentioned this on many a podcast, during the middle of COVID, the government announced that aliens are real. They said UFOs. Yeah, we've seen them. We got them. During the last round of the whole stimulus thing, they're like, blah, 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 bunch of bullshit, bunch of things. We're like, wait a minute, that doesn't seem right. And then somewhere at the bottom, they're like, and we're going to release in 180 days everything we have on aliens. I'm like, and everybody's like, like that's like, it should be like the biggest, not, I want to say concern, because I think they come in peace, bro. I think they come in peace. Because if they wanted to fuck us up, they would have done that already.
That is the crazy world we live in now.
Yeah.
Where the level of crazy has been so high that you can throw aliens and people don't even, they just walk right over it. But I read about that. I mean, there's just a lot of, you can definitely go down a rabbit hole on YouTube with a lot of that kind of stuff. Do you remember those videos from a few years ago where people were recording, like in their neighborhoods, like sounds up in the sky?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What was that?
We're going to find out in 180 days. Is they're going to release that shit to the public.
Well, and then a couple months ago, you had the monoliths showing up in the desert, desert of Utah or whatever.
Yeah, and then it's gone. Then it's over in like Belize somewhere, and the next it's up down. There's one in Antarctica.
And then I think to myself, it's somehow a marketing for a new energy drink or something.
Well, if we're gonna find out in the conclusion, it's gonna happen on Sunday during the Super Bowl, because I mean that's got to be the only time that you go, okay, well everybody's watching. I'm not, which is weird because we kind of talked about the Super Bowl, and it was, remembering those iconic, not just the game itself, but the commercials and you talked about the voicing for those kind of things, and you have all those eyes and ears on it. It's just gonna be. I mean, this year you have the biggest advertisers ever not advertising during the Super Bowl. It's just a weird.
Now I don't know why that is.
I don't know.
I think when it comes to big advertisers like Budweiser and a few others who have pulled out, I don't think it really hurts their bottom line in the immediate. But you'd think that because really there won't be a lot of people at the stadium, that there'll be more viewers watching. I don't know. Who knows?
I would have thought of all times to because it seems like those iconic brands, especially Budweiser. I mean, Pepsi's had some great things over the years. Coke's had some great things over the years. But it seems like Budweiser always comes, there's always something that, and it's not the CGI stuff blowing up. It's always, they have that heartfelt Clydesdale. They've done with stuff with veterans. There's just like these moments where you're like now is the time we need that. AB, we need that right now.
Goddamn horses. I want some goddamn flags.
Right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Come on, bring it. Then maybe they'll just run some old stuff. They're like, what can we get for $1.2 million? You get 30 seconds of an old commercial. Yeah. Okay, well, run the one with the Clydesdales and that when they kneel. Before
I know that there was somewhere, and I'll have to find it, but I want to see the actual research of your cost to return on a Super Bowl ad for just a regular company that's not Budweiser,
right?
That has enough money for one commercial at one play, and that's it. I'd be curious to see what kind of response and or return they do get.
Yeah, because I mean, you literally, if you have that one spot, 130 to get a message across, I mean, it has to either be super like big budget or real simple. I mean, 30 seconds of your Instagram handle.
Yep.
Because I do think when you have the most eyes on it, I mean, you and I both know in the radio world, it takes 6 times for people to get the message across. Well, you hope out of 75 million people that are watching the game that, I'm not sure how you track that ROI, but
the other thing too is, it's streaming now. Like right now, you were saying that you're streaming on, was it YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch?
And Twitch, yeah.
Yeah, at the same time. And so that's, you figure the Super Bowl is the same situation. They're going to be streaming all over the universe, plus TV and mobile devices and whatever else. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. My brain can't think anything like I'm not very good at math, man.
I don't like numbers. They're not my thing. No, it's gonna be crazy. But Steve Stone, I want to say thank you for the time today. It's great to catch up with you and hear the stories behind your career and your life and how you've been managing to get through all this stuff. And I'll leave you with this question: how do you feel about the Pirates this year? we're in the same division, man. Brewers and Pirates. We're in the same division.
Yeah, well, my wife knows just how every spring I have that little bit of glimmer of maybe this year it'll be okay. And then about 2 weeks after the season starts and we haven't won a game yet, it's just like I start taking all my Pirates hats and shirts to Goodwill. That is the way I've lived my life for 25 years of following the Pirates. But I was spoiled. There was a couple of years there, in 2013, 2014 that it was magical. But now they've traded everybody away, and I hear that they need a catcher, so I may go and sign up.
Yeah.
So who knows? I got a shot.
You got some free time, just like I have to move my schedule around a little bit, but I guess I can make the home games at least, and it's fine.
Yeah.
You'd be their home game catcher. Hey, same way with the Brewers.
I appreciate you asking me to come on. This has been fun, and I'm really proud of you for not letting radio ending define you. You're like next on, and so that's, to me, that's just you have to be able to roll with the punches in anything in life.
Right.
The only thing constant is change, and just step through it. So I'm really happy for you.
Absolutely. Steve Stone, let's get to your let's show the fancy people your website here. Get there it is.
Oh,
look
yeah.
at that. StoneVoiceovers.com. Go and check it out. You can listen to all the magic is all on there. There's CNN stuff. Look at this guy. He's all over. You're all over everywhere, man. Just dude's everywhere. Everywhere. He's everywhere you want to be.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. And I'll make sure to get that check in the mail to you for all the nice things you said.
It's P.O. Box. No, it's 2021. He's PayPal or Venmo or whatever.
Venmo or whatever, right?
Whatever the kids are using. Whatever my kid gets money from. He's like, you PayPal me some money? I'm like, you're 10. Start your own YouTube channel.
By the way, if your son, if you're trying to get him to understand money, there's a really cool debit card for kids that I have my teens use. It's called Green Light, I think.
Mm.
And what you do is it's just a debit card that they use, but you put money on it. So, there's a limit. It's not like a credit card where they can go crazy, but like you can put $20 on if they're going to the store. And so then they understand and start, and it works on there's an app on the phone so they can see how much money they have left. It's really cool. I think it's called Green Light. Yeah.
I'll have to check that out because that will help my son understand tax. Because he'll have like $10. Oh, yeah. He's like, this is $9.99. I'm like, no, it's not.
One piece of advice, because I've been at this for a long time. When you're self-employed, for every dollar that you make, take half of it and put it aside, because there's a thing called taxes that you don't want to get. You don't want to get behind it. You got to make sure, pay your taxes, get a good accountant, keep organized. Even if it's a shoebox, have everything in a shoebox.
Man, I got a guy.
Sometimes, I got a guy. Yeah.
Sometimes he just like, how much money did you make this year? I'm like, I got a big shoebox, but I'll tell you what, the output or the input was more than the output. But no, it's all good though. Steve Stone, thank you again, my friend. And we'll be in touch. I have visions of your voice on Cooperville Live, which we're going to launch tomorrow, which I'm super excited about.
Awesome, man! Congrats, and yeah, keep going. I think it's great. It's awesome. I appreciate the time.
Awesome. Steve Stone, ladies and gentlemen, thanking him. And of course, thanking you, everybody who jumped on, and for all the comments. Thank you to everybody who was on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitch. Really appreciate you paying attention to what we got going on. Don't forget, tomorrow, 3 to 6, we launch Cooperville Live, all on these same formats. Going to be very cool. We have 12 guests lined up. We're going to talk a bunch of shit, probably more about aliens and stuff. It's going to be great. And just random. Because I figured what we're trying to do is trying to have conversations like human beings have conversations. People talk on like one subject. Nobody talks that way. We're just going to have random conversations with a bunch of great people. So check that out coming up tomorrow and every single weekday from 3 until 6. Bookmark it. Special thanks out to Midwest Meals and to Monster Energy. Don't forget to follow the show on all the platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and wherever you listen to the podcast. Make sure you follow. Leave us a rating, and we appreciate it being a part of the free speech revolution. Until next time, ladies and gents, thank you so much for paying attention and for listening and for interacting. We will chat with you soon. Be well.